Okay, welcome back. So this time what we're going to be working on is running away. So we want the fish to actually run away from the player to make it much more realistic, like they would do in the wild. We're also going to combine the wander and the runaway script into one script so that the fish have all their behaviours all in one single script. Make it a bit more organised. And we're also going to have a look at other fish needs, creating other things like other behaviour. And we won't get into it too much, but we'll explore that. So let's get started. Okay, so first we're going to create the script for a runaway. Once we've done that, we're going to add a few variables, standard things such as the speed of the fish and also the run distance, so how far away the fish will run. We also want to add a transform for the player, so we want to be able to get our players transform. And so I base it based on the tag, and I get the transform. And I make a mistake here, which is I usually do this when I'm ever trying to get the transform, which is find game objects with tag. It's actually object, not objects. So I do make that mistake quite commonly, unfortunately. But you know, this happens. So there you go. I fixed it. I realized what the problem was, and now we go into our update. So we set our vector distance, and we determine our position for the player. And if it is less than the run distance, then they'll move towards the player. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is set all of the actual run distance and the speed. And then once that's done, I've obviously added the script on already, and I add them all to each and every fish. So all of and update the prefab, and then just to see if it's working, if the fish is actually running away. As you can see, they are when I get close to them. But right now they're still heading to their wander, and it's a little bit annoying because you want the fish to run away regardless of where you're going. They shouldn't really be they should only be doing one state rather than both of them at the same time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move all the wander into a single function, and then move that function, or just copy that code for the function over to a different script. I'm going to do the same thing for the runaway. We're going to create our own runaway function, move all that in there, and as I just said, we're going to add it into one single script. So there we go, I create the script and I just call it fish AI, although it's not really AI. AI implies artificial intelligence, and this really isn't. But there you go, I add it all in with all the variables. This means I will have to set it all up again with all the individual fish, but that's fine. So I add in the runaway action, and I add in the wander, and get all the code and variables. Quickly reorganize it all, and then spend a bit of time just making sure everything's right. It's basically exactly the same as what we had in the other scripts, just combined. And then I get rid of the runaway and the wander script. After that, I do a little bit of reorganizing because we want the runaway action to be activated above the wander, and we want the wander to be sort of the secondary action. So we always want, essentially it's the idle, like it's when the player isn't really interacting with it, that's what they should be doing. And if there's no other needs going on, then they should be just wandering. I do a little bit of reorganizing, but these aren't really that accurate names. I'll probably change them later. They're just like temporary folders, just to keep things a little bit more organized. So I'll just move all them in, just again to keep everything in one place, everything in a specific folder, so I can find it easier. And then fix a few of these script problems, because some of the wander scripts are still on them. I've opened up the prefabs because I want to be able to add a new script to them, and you can't really do that while they're a prefab. So I opened the prefabs and made them a normal object, so I can make them a prefab later. And then I put in all the details I had for the other two scripts back onto these fish, while still removing the scripts that have been originally taken off. Once all of the information is back on, all the variables and the wander position, as well as the start and hold and such, what is moved back on, once I've done all that, I'll actually make it into a prefab again. Now, because I did break the prefabs, I had to put them back on my spawn object array, but that didn't take too long. So there you go, it's all working. Once I get close to it, the fish run away. And then once they're far enough away from the player, they'll resume their wander. So it all works. Now what I want to do is I want to add in a reproduction function, and I want to also add in a few other things. So I reorganize it, make it so that certain distance is right, and then add in that reproduction which you just created, and I start playing around with other fish needs, things like wanting to reproduce or searching for a mate. I ended up not being too happy with how it ended up, but that's okay because I can always look at it a little bit later on. So I create the reproduction if the need is currently equal, or if the need is currently less than equal to 30. So if it's less than or equal to 0, it should be doing a certain action. Otherwise, it's just gonna minus to that variable of need baby. This was very much me just playing around and trying to think of how I was going to do it, because I wasn't too sure if I wanted how often I wanted fish to be able to reproduce. Do I even want this really? Do I want it to just carry on going around? And I wasn't too sure how I really wanted this to work. But as you can see, I'm just sorting out, trying to get it working, and I spent a long time on this, just trying to get the search for mate and reproduction working, and I just didn't really like it all that much. In the end, I did get it working, where they would get to players and it would reproduce, but we'll look at that more in the next episode. Right, see you next time.